the schedule is different every day. Well, it is and it isn't. Like if on a standard day we have practice from 5 to 8, but we have so many other things during the day, and so we have our daily testing time at 12:30, where you must get your COVID test. You had to fill out your health questionnaire. There will be film, there will be treatment, there might be individual meetings, there might be, correctives or active recovery, pool workouts, stuff like that. All in all, we're staying really busy, and for sure, it seems like it's, morning to night, putting in that preparation because the training camp has been so consolidated. Everyone was working out, and then we had a 12-day quarantine, and then we had to go right into 10 days to get into full game shape. And now we have 15 games in 25 or 26 days, which is basically, every 5 days we'll have 3 games, essentially. And so it's going to be, it's going to be a grind for sure.
Yeah, and it's a very unconventional time, and we're coming off a very unconventional year. So let's take a step back looking into 2020. When the COVID lockdowns just started, where were you and what were you doing during that time to stay in shape and stay busy as you were looking forward to the next season?
Well, when COVID first hit, it was crazy because we had just finished. I was in the CBA, the Professional Basketball League in China last year, and so we had just finished our final game right before Chinese New Year, which is like basically like right now.
Yeah.
Like that, the CBA just finished maybe 2 days ago, that final game before their Chinese New Year break. So literally like 12 months ago to this day almost. And then COVID started to break out in China. And then we were told to, hey, you're take an extra 3 days, take an extra 5 days, take an extra week, take an indefinite amount of time. And so during that time, I came back to the US and I was just training here. And that was 2 months of training here. Then all of a sudden, the CBA, when China started to get COVID more under control, they started to resume the CBA and they told us to go back. And literally the day that I left to go back was when California went on their shelter in place lockdown. That day or like, give or take, 24 hours. And so I kind of experienced it in both places.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy. And then I finished the CBA season. I came back here and to Palo Alto, and I just trained for the next 4 to 5 months until I signed with the Santa Cruz Warriors.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting perspective going from China to the US, back to China. And that's a perspective that really I haven't heard anywhere else. So what do you think you learned most about yourself and as a player during that time, experiencing that just a little bit in both places?
The biggest thing I learned is don't judge a book by its cover, and that life is much bigger than basketball. So the first one, don't judge a book by its cover. I think it's so interesting. I'm Asian American, and I was in China, and I saw how they handled COVID, and I also saw what they thought of how Americans were handling COVID. I was also in the US and saw that, and I also saw what Americans were saying about how China was handling COVID. And I think what it taught me was that they're just like, and that's kind of about politics right now, or anything that's really controversial, is like, even above what you think is right or wrong, I think like the bare minimum, the foundation of what you do has to be some level of compassion or empathy. Otherwise,
Amen to
you're
that.
never going to get anywhere. You're never going to get anywhere. Even if you think you're right and you want to try to convince somebody else that they're wrong, you'll never get there without empathy and compassion and being able to at least try to meet them where they're at or see their point of view. And so it was so interesting for me to be like, I would go to China and they'd be like, I can't believe the Americans are doing it this way. Are you serious? And then I go here back home and they're like, I can't believe they did that in China. And da, 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 da. And I was literally stuck in the middle as an Asian American. And I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I've seen both sides. Like, there's pros, there's cons. But at the end of the day, it was just no one. It felt like not no one, but it felt like not that many people were willing to see the other side. And then the second thing is just, it's much more important than basketball. And that's why for me, basketball has a much deeper purpose. And I'm trying not to go too long into this answer, but just my purpose for why I play the game is deeper now that I've experienced something that is more about life and death and real world issues versus like how many wins do we get, how many losses do we get, and like who won the championship. These things are important, but they're not even close to the most important in terms of what's actually going on.
And I feel like that's why you have such a great connection in the NBA, in the CBA. People just love the way that you have a perspective that I'm playing basketball for more than just myself. I have a deeper meaning, deeper foundation inside of that. And you have such a compassion. And we're going to talk about your nonprofit and how you're using, that compassion to really make a difference in communities. But to talk a little bit more about your background playing in China, you had a great season last season with the Beijing Ducks. You averaged just above 22 points, just above 5 rebounds and 5 assists a game. And you started every single game that you played. But looking back on that time in China and your entire NBA career, a lot of season ticket holders would love to know, like, what's some of your fondest memories? A lot of people, they got to follow you through Linsanity. That was an incredible time for the NBA, incredible time for you. But what are some of the fondest memories you had in your career so far?
Oh man.
I'm asking you the big questions,
I
Jeremy.
know it's tough. I mean, if you're talking about purely on the court, definitely when I was in New York, playing for the Knicks, and we played the Lakers. That was definitely one of them, as well as the game winner in Toronto. Definitely winning the NBA champion. I guess I shouldn't say that one. Never mind.
That still hurts too much
Cross
around
that one
here.
off. But to me, that was really cool just to be able to be the first Asian American to win one. And then I think off the court, there's so many memorable moments, but for the purpose of time, I won't get into it all. And but I mean, the game has blessed me with more than I ever thought I would have, and so I'm just very, very grateful. So
Yeah.
many experiences. I could go on and on and on.
And I know we're grateful to have you back here in Santa Cruz too. A lot of fans are so excited. Obviously, once again, you started your career in Golden State. You're a Bay Area native, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But as I alluded to, you have a nonprofit. You have such a passion for people and making a difference, not only on the court, but off. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what's going on with the Jeremy Lin Foundation? Tell us how that started and really where that passion comes from to make a difference in the community.
I mean, maybe one of the most uh, altering conversations I ever had. One of my best friends growing up, he was in East Palo Alto. I played high school basketball at Pali with them, and I lived in Palo Alto. And I remember we picked him up to go to one of the games, and I was like, "Hey, man, how are you rested? Are you ready to go? How'd you feel? How do you feel?" And he's like, "I'm not. I'm pretty tired." I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "I didn't sleep that well." It's like, "Why didn't you sleep well? We have a big game." And he's like, "Oh, there were gunshots, like right on my street in the middle of the night, and I couldn't really sleep well after that." And that's when I was like, "Man, this is just right across the freeway." I mean, I live really like my house is 1 block away from 101, and
Yeah.
right across the freeway. At that time, growing up, East Palo Alto had the highest crime per capita of one of the highest crime per capita, if not the highest, of any city in the entire U.S. At one point, and so that's when it started for me that like things are different. I ended up living in East Palo Alto for 3 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks. And we lived in one of the apartment complexes, just helping and serving through my church and being there and running fun camps and stuff like that. And that's where it started. And so recently, we made somewhat of a pivot with the foundation, but we started to focus in on the Bay Area. And so recently we made 5 grants of $200,000 each to 5 different Bay Area organizations. And a lot of them are centered around AAPI and youth and just addressing a lot of issues from COVID, which is more, uh, an immediate need versus, and then there's other ones from mentorship to leadership to education to things like that. And so we spent a good amount of time researching, interviewing, and then coming down to our final list of grantees. And we settled on a group of 5 that we really, really love.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear this kind of stuff too, because there's a lot of people that can hear this stuff, feel bad, wish there's something they could do, but you're actually putting that into action. And I'm definitely happy to hear the difference you're making in the community and what you're going to continue to do through the Jeremy Lin Foundation. And where can season ticket holders and people find out a little bit more about the Jeremy Lin Foundation? Is there a website, social media? Where can they look at?
Yeah, just JeremyLinFoundation.org, and we'll have everything there. And then I post about it as well from my own Instagram and stuff like that, and social media.
Perfect. And then season ticket holders, once again, if you're a little late joining us, there's a Q&A portion that we'll do at the end. We'll just answer a few of those questions. Those questions, you can put those in at the very bottom, smack dab in the middle, just to the right of the participants tab. But now talking about this season, Jeremy, I know you're constantly looking forward. You had to make a big decision about whether to stay in China or come out here and join the G League Warriors and come out here and jump into Santa Cruz one more time. So can you give us a little breakdown of what that decision was like? Because I know that was big as you look to make another comeback in the NBA.
Yeah, it was a big decision for me, and I mean, it was one of the hardest decisions because of what the fans in Asia mean to me, and it's a bond that maybe I could talk about, but it's not really something that you would understand unless you went and experienced it. And so I won't even try to do it justice by explaining it, but it was a very, very difficult decision. And a lot of people, most everybody was, suggesting that I go back overseas. And a lot of people disagreed with my decision or thought that it was crazy at the moment for everything that I had turned down and everything that we had going for us last season and everything with that. But I just felt like, hey, this is a unique season. There's a G League bubble, and it's a 4-week sprint. And I'm going to give it my best. And if it works out, it works out. And if not, my goal is to enjoy the experience, get as many wins as I can, and to just play ball and enjoy playing ball. And whatever platform or whatever result that we end up with, I want to just be able to be grateful to God. I mean, I'm kind of what I was saying to you is like, I used to play for myself, for the wins, for the championships, for the stats, for the whatever it is, just to be recognized as a great basketball player. And I feel like at this stage in the game, for me, I'm not really on a solo mission to establish myself as whatever. It's about, I want to soak in these experiences. I want to play the right way. I want to have fun doing it, and win as many games as we can. And if I can just really embrace that journey, like, I feel like that's going to be a huge part of what I consider to be successful.
And I feel like a lot of going into this season, hearing other players from other teams speak about their, mental fatigue they're going through. It's just a different feel being at the single site. You're not traveling to other arenas, and you don't feel like you're sleeping in your own bed. But going back to you talking about China, you're going from a place where you were so loved to another place that you're very loved, but you had packed arenas there in China. And then now you're going to a single site where there's going to be no crowd atmosphere. How do you get yourself mentally prepared for games in an entire season like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing was that at least, last season when we went back to China and finished it out, there were no fans for some of it, and then they started to let fans in.
Yeah.
So I got a taste of it. And so that will allow me to adjust a little bit more quickly, I think. And so I'm more, I'll be a little bit more used to that. But you're right, even before that, like last season, it was just like, sellouts. And like, I mean, it was like there's like fake tickets and stuff. And, like there's more people than capacity, like in the arena, some of the arenas. And so it was just like, yeah, it's definitely different, but you got to bring your own energy. But I think for hoopers, it's like, we love to hoop, bottom line. So we never did it. I never did it for the fans in terms of like, oh, to be able to stand there and look up, everyone cheering for me. Like that wasn't my primary motivating factor. So I think we're all going to be okay.
And I'm sure there's a lot of your teammates and a lot of people on these other teams, they got to watch their mouths, because anything you say, everybody's going to hear in the arena too. So I'm sure that's been funny watching the NBA at times, where it's like you have someone like Draymond that is so vocal, and you're going to hear everything he's saying on broadcast.
Yeah, good thing for me. I don't talk too much trash. So hopefully it's just a lot more play calls and trying to get everybody organized and talking it out on defense.
Mm-hmm. Speaking a little bit more to the single site, and people just join us here, season ticket holders. It is not called the bubble. It is called single site. So a little bit different feel than what the NBA just had in the playoffs this last season. Can you tell us a little bit more of like an inside scoop of kind of like where you're staying, where your teammates are staying, if you guys need to eat, get haircuts, just random everyday things like that. How are you going about that? What do you do?
I'm like looking around for the map, but I don't have it. But basically, like, you're not allowed in anybody else's room. You have to have a mask at all times.
So let's go ahead and get to a few of those. First up from Fernando, do you have a favorite moment with the Warriors?
Yeah, my favorite moment, I would say, would be probably my career high with the Warriors when we played the Lakers, because I grew up in the Bay Area as a Warriors fan, and so everyone always has that chip on their shoulder. And when I was growing up, the Bay and the Warriors were not like the Warriors that we've seen in the last decade. The best that we had seen in 20 years was the Baron Davis We Believe squad. But prior to that, it was very much a Southern California dominant rivalry. And so being able to have my career high, which I think was like 8 points or 12 points or something my rookie year against the Lakers, I was like, all right, cool.
At the end of the season, whether you're with the Santa Cruz Warriors or you're able to get a shot up with Golden State, looking back, what's going to make this a successful year for you individually?
Kind of what I said is earlier is that going off of that theme is like, if I can't play this season and embrace and enjoy it, no matter how well I do from a success standpoint, like, what's the point of having what's the point of having an awesome meal if you don't remember anything from it, or if you didn't enjoy it, right? Like, or what's the point of watching the best movie ever if your mind wasn't present and you don't remember anything? And it's like, that's how I feel about some of my career, is that I was always so focused on that next goal that I couldn't enjoy the moment. And that's one of the biggest things I want to do. I also have my other goals of how I want to perform and those types of things, but really, like, more than anything, I want to play and love the game and just soak in that. And then I also want to make really big impact with my platform and with the game of basketball. I really want to make an impact off the court, because I think it is vital right now.
Before we let you go, we got one final question. It's a big question right now after watching the Super Bowl and seeing what Tom Brady just did. A lot of people want to know, who is the GOAT, the best team sport athlete in the history of American sports? Is it Tom Brady or is it Michael Jordan?
Ooh, that's tough. Michael Jordan is my favorite basketball player of all time. But I think a stat that I heard yesterday kind of solidifies it for me. It's Tom Brady is the winningest player in all four professional sports, all four major professional sports, and the Tampa Bay Bucks had the lowest winning percentage of any organization in all four major sports. And the one with the highest winning percentage went to the organization with the lowest winning percentage and then won the Super Bowl. So I guess that's got to count for something. Maybe I'm just influenced because the Super Bowl was yesterday, but I got to go with Brady, I guess.
Well, definitely thank you so much for your time, Jeremy. And season ticket holders, thanks so much for joining us here. Another huge shout out to Ring Central for making this happen. Jeremy, we're so excited that you're here. We're so excited to see you play on Wednesday. Definitely best of luck to you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and just keep representing the Warriors and that community well. We're definitely excited you're here.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you, guys.